We are late, and I apologize. That is completely my fault, guys. So anyone who was watching this stream or picking this up after the fact, I had a busy day and then started watching football and started consuming alcohol and completely lost track of time. So we're here on the Spawn podcast. It's going to be just me and PJ today, and the topic is going to be talking about pretty much anything we want because we have no plan going forward.
Our
So
plan is we have no plan.
our plan is to talk fishing. That's our plan.
That's all it
So we're going to
is.
do that. So anybody listening on podcast form, I want to say I appreciate you guys for looking us up and finding us on there. We've been getting a few looks. We've been getting a few messages. If you haven't checked out, I do have a YouTube channel where I try to provide information as well. The premise that we were going to go with in this is going to be basically story time. So if anybody has done any fishing of any kind, you know that half of fishing is catching fish and the other half is something random that happened that you want to tell your buddies about because it was so weird, either positive or negative, that it warrants telling a story. So I think that's what we're going to do tonight, is just tell stories. And if you guys are in the chat, anybody who wants to be part of this show, tell your story in the chat and we'll read it out. We may even be bringing people on for the next episode. Maybe we'll continue this into another episode later where we bring guests on to tell their stories. But I have to ask, dude, have you been fishing yet? Because I know you've been kind of.
I knew that was going to be a topic of
I have to
subject
ask.
here. We literally just got our driver's license.
Okay.
I believe last week. They came in the mail last week, got the license and our license plates. This weekend here, I had a huge test that I've been studying for, and I am proud to say that I passed it with flying colors. So now that all of that is kind of behind us, we are ready to go get our fishing license and do some exploring. And we have a few lakes here. We have the White River, which is, world renowned, especially right around here. We just drove over it twice yesterday. Me and my wife kind of looked at it. Today we were going to get out, maybe do a little bit of hiking, do a little bit of exploring. She was unfortunately feeling under the weather, so I kind of just straighten things up here in the garage, get things ready for fishing.
Yep.
But hopefully by the next podcast, we will have at least did some bank fishing, some shore fishing.
Okay.
Maybe not have taken a kayak out. I'm not real sure about having her out on the kayak as the weather temperatures are getting a little bit
dude.
cold. So I'll play it safe with her. I may venture out a day if I have it. I have this weekend off, but this is Penn State, Ohio State weekend. So I make no guarantees.
So for full disclosure, that is why I remembered I was late. Because I was watching the NFL and they were talking about the Ohio State game, and I went, shit, I'm late. Because I know how much of a fan you are, and I was like, oh fuck. That's right. I have a live stream an hour ago. Damn it. So yeah, that's literally what prompted it. I was watching it. I was like, oh yeah, PJ likes. Oh shit, PJ. Fuck.
And I said I was messing around in my garage today, and I was actually working on more Ohio State gear, so to speak, to wear for next weekend's game.
Nice.
Against Penn State. So I'm kind of excited about that there. Yes, I am a diehard Buckeyes fan. Like I say, I got the sign behind me over here. I got the sweatshirt on here. I got the T-shirt on underneath here. Generally, I have my Ohio State Buckeyes hat on, but I'm still mourning the loss of the Orioles in the playoffs, so I decided to wear the Orioles hat today.
Braves fan, dude. We got destroyed.
I told you it couldn't have been any worse than what the Orioles did. I mean, it was a lack of offense, starting pitching. the whole 9 yards. It was terrible from the word go.
Absolutely crazy, dude. Because like as a Braves fan, I haven't watched baseball all season because I've been too busy fishing and making content. But what was crazy is every single analyst. I saw some posts. That's what actually got me into watching the playoffs. Was I was like, I'll watch it. Every analyst in every sector of the MLB was like, oh, the Braves are going to make the series this year. They have too powerful of an offense. They're too good on defense, and they scored 2 runs in the NLDS.
Well, that's it. That's all they scored was 2 runs
I think they
in three
scored.
games.
I think it was 4 over 3 games.
Over 3 games. That may have beat Baltimore because I
Dude,
mean Baltimore. I think they may have scored 7 total, but I
oh
think
dude, it was insane. They
the
lost 10 to
Rangers.
2 in game 2.
Who's that? Orioles.
The Braves lost 10 to 2 in game 2.
Was he? The
So
Orioles
brutal.
may have done worse than that. I think they got beat 12 or 13 to 2,
It's
4,
nuts.
something like
It's
that there,
crazy.
game 2. And then game 3 was like a 7-1, 9-1, something like that. I just
Awesome.
terrible,
You know
terrible,
what's funny
terrible.
though, dude? Is I'm glad that you're a sports fan like me in the sense of like I'm a Braves fan, but I'm a Jets fan. So granted, I'm a glutton for punishment is what that means, but
The
it's
Braves are
not like
generally
I have
good.
but it's not like I have to be an Atlanta fan or I have to be a New England because I live in New England.
Right,
You know,
right.
I like the Jets not because they're technically a New England team. I like the Jets just because I've always liked an underdog team, and the Jets are just perennially the underdog. It's just since Namath retired, we've been the underdog. It's just been like
Yeah.
that since then. But so speaking of like fishing related stuff, the kayak stuff, because you were saying, I think I'm retiring my kayak for the year.
I will I probably will get out with mine. Maybe I just got some info from my neighbor yesterday. He was telling me about the lake that I want to go to. He was telling me where there's an old road bed and the water is like pristine, crystal clear. You can follow the road bed back around at least to some old sunken trees, some stumps, and some
Okay.
coming up there. So I may venture back there. He told me it goes about 8 foot, and then gets back into about 15 foot deep, and then there's some
Ooh.
caves and some high cliffs and things like that there. So I'll probably venture back there. But yeah, the tandem, it's dry docked for the season.
Yeah,
I don't feel getting her out there. I don't think she would even want to go out. But
dangerous as hell, though. Yeah.
2 people on a kayak. I mean, we do really well working together, but
Yeah.
without the temperatures dropping, without dry suits, um, we always go with PFDs, but that's only going to get you so long.
Yeah.
You got to
The
have.
rule of 120 is in play, dude. So it's 50 degrees here.
Yeah, it's 60
And
here, so
water temp's 54.
see, I haven't even checked the water temps yet, so
Yeah, my fish finder yesterday was reading 54, and that's on a small 300 acre to not even probably 200 acre lake
mm.
with max depth of 12 feet.
So it's getting down there.
So if you get into like Champlain, you get into Lake Dunmore, you start getting into our bigger lakes. I bet they're 50.
Right?
Because those bigger lakes they cool off faster and they warm up slower. It's just kind of one of those deals. But
Right.
and I don't know where the thermocline is. I don't know if it's done that fall fucking flip flop thing that happens every year or not.
Yeah.
But I'm still fishing. I'm probably gonna get out in the bass boat. I have an outboard on my bass boat, so I can run that technically as late as I dare, but
Right.
as long as I drain the water out of it when I'm done, I could fish right through the winter. I could break ice with it and go out. But it's weird. So today or for yesterday, for example, dude, I went out chasing smallmouth. I went to a small pond that I almost always like. This is a weird place because I usually almost always can call my shot there. Now this place is screwed up because it is so loaded with smallmouth that they stopped stocking it with trout because I don't know why they ever did because it's only 12 feet deep.
So it's
It's not
really
not really
Yeah.
deep enough for stock or trout, but
Right.
the runoff and all the rain that we got made this water tannic as hell, like super dark colored, like tea colored water. And this is water that's normally 4 feet of visibility everywhere throughout the whole
Right.
body. It's finally cleared out because when water gets cold, and I want to find someone who can tell me the science of this. My dog's freaking out because my kid's got a girl over. Yeah, interesting story with that one. Anyways, I want to find the science on this, and if somebody knows it, let me know in the comments of this video. When it gets colder, the water clears up. You ever notice that?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
I don't know. There's got to be something to it. It's got to be density of the water, or the temperature doesn't mix with. It's got to be something because it
I was
seems
going to
like,
say,
and if you
with the
think about it,
temperature and the heat,
whenever you're ice fishing, you think about ice fishing. The ice isn't brown; it's clear. It's blue.
Mm-hmm.
So it must be something with cold water can't hold set it. I don't know. I don't know what the science behind it is, but so I actually was out recording a little bit of footage for these guys, underwater footage.
Oh,
And
nice.
I have an underwater camera. Dude, you want to talk about, we'll go right into a story here. Um, so he sent me an underwater camera. I don't know if I have it right here or not. And what it is it's basically like a little torpedo shaped GoPro, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he sent me a bunch of glide baits, 7-inch glide baits, some swim baits, stuff like that to film. The problem is a glide bait with that S hooked to
Right.
an inline, it's an inline camera. That camera would flip over and it would make awful footage. So I've been trying to wait till I got clear water, and then I need basically to set this thing on the bottom and then
Mm-hmm.
fish up to it. So cast over, fish to it, fish by it. Well, I bought Redneck Engineering for you. This is probably actually should be a good topic for another podcast too. The things that you've redneck engineered for fishing. I used a claw hammer on the front of it and a 2.5-inch ball and duct taped it to one of those rolling, like paint roller extension arms.
Oh, yep.
And then I actually mounted a couple metal brackets together with wing nuts so I could change the angle of the camera.
Right.
So basically I have a 6-foot pole that I can set on the bank and set down into the water to try and like get it at the right angle so I can fish to it. Well, this
Mm-hmm.
place that I wanted to fish, guess what? The water receded. So where
Too
I
dirty.
normally could just stand on the shore, it was actually perfectly clean, but I had to wade out to my knees in 50-degree water to place this camera because it wasn't deep enough 6 feet from the shore to run a glide bait without us smashing into the rocks every time it
Oh
banged.
my.
So I was outside. There was kayakers showing up, and I'm standing there in a hoodie, sweatpants, with my hat up, standing in knee-deep water, casting a 6-inch glide bait in front of a camera, and they're just like watching me, like, "What is this
So
idiot doing?"
tell me the footage that you're getting underground, please, for the love of God, please tell me you have a camera back here
I wish I did.
mounted to show what you're doing out there so
I
we
should
can
have.
all see this.
I should have.
Yeah.
I actually was fishing. I actually technically do have it because I also put this rig on a Scotty deck plate mount in my
Okay.
kayak and fished it yesterday from
Right.
my kayak. But the problem with fishing it from the kayak is, and you'll love this as someone who fishes in a kayak, I didn't have the angle right, so I had to lean to the left to get the camera to dip into the water enough to fish it, and
Uh-huh.
then lean back up and then lean back to the left and cast again. So I'm banking my kayak to film this footage to keep the camera at the right angle.
So that's what I mean. Like, we need a live
Oh, dude, it was
version, the camera angle up here shooting down on you so I can see
I
exactly what you're
thought
doing.
about dude, I thought about doing it because the whole time I'm fishing this bait, I'm like, you know what's gonna happen? This is inevitable. I'm going to catch a 6-pounder on this fucking glide bait, and it's not going to be on camera because I'm going to be working it back to, because I'm not, I mean, yes, technically I'm working it the proper way because I'm trying to show the action of the bait, but I'm like casting it 4 feet. I'm literally just I'm flipping a 6-inch glide bait is essentially what I'm doing. Because I'm just trying to get it just past the camera where it hits the water, and then I can
Work it back past it.
cut it back. So I don't
Right.
have to reel it 20 yards back when I don't really need to, because I'm trying to get as much footage on this camera as I can so I can make this loop. And yeah, dude, and it was the biggest nightmare. I got there, I tried doing it yesterday, and I had muck boots on, and I ended up stepping out too far, filled my muck with water, right full. And they're the winter muck
Oh,
boots with the
yeah.
freaking fleece lining. So like every time I was pedaling, the rest of the day was
So it's going to
the
hold the
whole
coldness in
time.
there.
Oh, dude, it was brutal. And then I tried fishing, and I kept I actually ran my kayak into a rock because I wasn't paying attention. Luckily, I have the Old Town with the pedal drive that has that pretty good back. It's got like a real trolling motor bottom on it.
Mm-hmm.
So dude, I literally was pedaling and went poof, and I was like, whoa. I actually went forward.
Now, see, if you want a good story to go with our topic here, since you just brought that up, I was fishing a tournament at a pretty big lake. It's on the Pennsylvania-Ohio border, and had no business being out there that day. But it was like a month-long tournament. Should not have been out there. The waves were like 2-3 footers, and they're like white capping. And I pedaled out. It was decent when I pedaled out, and then the wind picked up, and it got pretty brutal. And I had my son with me. My son at the time was probably 14, 15 years old, and I was pedaling a feel-free lure 11.5. I had the pedal drive
Okay.
on there.
Those are not a bad little kayak, yeah.
And yeah, it was a great kayak. Well, it was a great kayak. And I told him, I was like, Bud, I said, let's just head to shore. I said, it's too rough. We'll try, we'll move. We'll try to find a cove or something that we can get into. So we're heading back, and he took off, and I'm trolling, so to speak. Let's say trolling.
Yep.
And the wave just started crashing over the side of my kayak, and I'm like, okay, this is enough. I gotta get off the water.
Yep.
So I take off paddling as fast as I can, try to catch up to my son, try to get off the water, and try to ride the waves in. And the waves kind of hid this rock, and I hit this thing going, as fast as I could. I think, as fast as I could go, it was like 3 miles an
I was
hour.
say with those kayaks, probably 3-4 miles an hour.
Yeah, and I'm getting it, and I'm pedaling. I hit this thing, and the next thing I know, my drive pops out of the kayak. I hit so hard, it pops out, and it's laying there, and I'm, going forward, trying to grab my pedal drive because there's $1,000 that I don't want to fall over.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm screaming, my boy's looking at me, so I'm yelling at him, just keep going, and I'm trying to put my drive back in while I'm sitting on this rock. It's not going back in. I don't know what I'm doing. Finally, the chaos kind of went away, and I seen what was happening, so I kind of got my paddle out there, got myself off the rock, and then luckily, when I got back, the drives on those there are built pretty dang good because I did not bust the propeller, which they do have a safety pin inside there, which will break the safety pin instead of breaking that. But I didn't break the propeller. I didn't break the safety pin. All that happened was it came unlatched, and just the whole unit popped up out of there. And
if you haven't seen those drives, they're all metal. They're not plastic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But the way they mount those, I will say, my mom has that same kayak. I think she has a 10-foot one.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the way they mount that drive is stupid.
See,
because it can come right out when you lift it up.
Yeah,
it doesn't have a stop. You could technically have launched that thing off the front of your kayak because the way that slides forward, it just sits in a groove. There's nothing to stop that thing from just going right off the front of your kayak.
Exactly. Now, see, mine
It
was a
was
little
fun.
bit like because I had the Gen 1 and
Okay.
I had to do everything myself. So mine was a little bit sloppy, so to
Yep.
speak. So all I did was take just some rubber tape, 2-inch rubber tape, and I wrapped it around the motor
The square.
itself
Yep.
to
Yep.
kind of make it fit a little bit tighter.
Yep.
But yeah, it just has a little lip in the back, and the motor slides underneath it, and then there's a clip on the sides that hold
Yeah.
that thing down there. That's it.
Yeah.
But
That they didn't change it much because the one my mom has is basically a metal bracket that sits inside of two pieces of square tubing, but the
mhm.
square tubing is open on the other end. So if you pick that drive up and just want like this, it's just gonna go right off the front of your
Oh
kayak and
man,
not in the
I'm
water.
telling you,
Ooh.
very good. I liked that kayak. As far as using it for like a river kayak,
Yep.
stream kayak without the pedal drive, I started disliking that kayak when I added the pedal drive system to it.
Yep, I can
Um,
imagine that.
and basically, the whole reason was because it was the Gen 1, and I can't remember when I purchased it, but I had to do all the work myself,
Yep.
install all the rudder cables, the steering cables. Um,
Yeah.
so I did all of that myself, which I followed the directions to a T, and did it, and I actually became really good at it. The kayak shop that we had back home, I actually installed all of the drives for them for the
Yep.
Gen ones for that particular shop, and became really good at it, but I had to do everything myself, and I got to know the ins and the outs of it. I designed my own seat lock
Okay.
for that there because I really didn't particularly care for the way they did theirs.
Yep.
Uh, so I upgraded the seat and made it myself. My neighbor happened to be a metal fabricator, and we fabricated some things up. Um, they really didn't like my idea, so
Um,
I kept it for myself, and it is what it is. And they do their own thing.
dude, it's funny because there's a few kayak designers that one thing that always frustrated me is the Old Town. I get it from a business standpoint, right? But like so the autopilot, for example,
Mhm.
okay? They made it a different slot than the pedal drive.
Mhm.
Why?
Why?
Because I would have bought an Ultrex for my Old Town.
Hmm.
If I could have bought that drive to drop in my Old Town so that when I fish tournaments, I could use it as a powered kayak and then turn around and just make it only run with the remote. I don't need the throttle on the side. I don't need all the other crap. I've got a rudder to steer it. You just give me the remote and the drive, and I can buy a drive for $800 and drop it in the hole.
Hmm.
I could get the equivalent of both kayaks that way without having to upgrade. But they had to make the drive slot different for some reason. And like one thing I will say about Feel Free is like their sit on top kayaks, their paddle kayaks have the same hole size and same size. They're designed to drop a drive in. And Native, they have a bracket you can buy. It's a transom bracket that you can put in the drive slot so
Hmm.
that you can drop a regular trolling motor in a in the hole that the pedal drive goes to.
See, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of the. Oh shoot, I can't think of the guy's name now. He has a business. Um, it's like kayak gizmo,
Okay.
something like that. Or yak gizmo yak or something like a yak gizmo. And I know a lot of guys who have contacted him, and he's a fabricator. He does a lot
Yep.
of different fabrications for a lot of different um, brands, so you can adapt because everybody has to make it different. So you buy something from
And I
them.
get it. Yeah, they want you to buy a new model or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
like when you're making a $4,000 investment on a kayak and you're a fisherman, you're probably not going to go buy another $4,000 kayak. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. Fishermen are going to cob that thing. They're not going to just go buy a new kayak.
See, that's what, and I keep telling my wife this all the time. And I've been doing, I've been kayak fishing since like 2007,
Oh,
2008,
okay.
something like that. There, and the whole reason that I liked kayak fishing as opposed to like getting into, buying a bass boat and doing the local, tours and stuff like that, their tournaments, was because you could buy, and all of us, for the most part, everybody has started out in a 199, 299 box store kayak. But
Sun
the thing
dolphin.
is, what's that?
Sun dolphin.
I started out
Yep.
in a Pelican. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Same thing. Yep.
But you saw it, like whenever I was first going to these tournaments back in '06, '07, '08, and the same guys were using the same kayaks I was.
Yep.
You seen the different modifications that guys were screwing, gluing, and bolting onto their kayaks, and you were like, "Wow, that's an awesome idea. I think I'm going
Yep.
to try that."
Yep.
And then Jackson, they revolutionized the whole
Oh yeah.
kayak fishing scene, if you ask me. Because when first time I seen the Jackson, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
what is that thing? That thing looks like a battleship.
Yep.
And it already had the mods that we just did to our $200 kayaks. And they
Yep.
were charging, I think back in, it was, 2009, 10, something like that there. They were like $1,200 for like a top of the line. And I was like, oh my
Right.
gosh, I can't spend $1,200 on a kayak.
Yeah. Can you imagine now, dude?
You
1,200.
know,
I would go buy one tomorrow if it was $1,200, dude. If
you
I
know
could
what I
buy
mean?
a NAR for $1,200, I'd go buy the NAR tomorrow.
Yeah, I
Sign me
say that
up.
like, oh man, I can't spend $1,200, but yet, I got almost $20,000 sitting literally right here beside me.
So what is hilarious to me, and I made this revelation the other day, was so what's hilarious to me is if you think about fishing, like fishermen, right?
Mhm.
Fishermen have a stigma of being like these dirty, poor, like hobo-ish people. Like that's the stigma. But what people don't realize is I've got like $1,000 in rods and reels alone. Just the rods and reels. Not even the line on the rods and reels. That's $30 a roll.
Oh, I know.
Not to mention, like I said, I was fishing baits today. Some of the baits I was throwing that I was filming today are $125 a piece. Like,
Exactly.
I don't know if I honestly would have bought in them, but I'm making footage and I get to use them and I get to try them. But there's a lot of guys, dude, that like you're talking, when you break it down, like things that people don't realize. You look at that $4,000 kayak, right? And they're talking about, well, it's got yak rails end to end, right? Well,
Mhm.
if you were to put those on a regular kayak, you'd have to buy probably 4 because they only make them in like 12 and 24-inch segments.
Right.
And then you'd have to bolt them in with stainless steel bolts, which are not cheap because if you don't use stainless, they will rust.
Mhm.
Then you have to think about the other accessories that they put. Roto molded rod holders. So if you want a couple extra rod holders, there's $40 right there. Then you got to drill a hole and you got to screw those in properly. Like by the time it's all said and done, dude, those stock kayaks have $1,000 worth of accessories that we were putting on OG kayaks back in the day automatically.
Exactly.
So like it's crazy what they're like. And what the thing is too is the kayak gives you the customization that like I don't spend money on certain things. Like I won't buy a black pack because I don't see the point in spending $75 on a milk crate with rod
Mhm.
holders.
I'm with you.
Sorry, I will never get sponsored by them because I'm saying this on a live stream, but at the end of the day, I can't justify $80 for a milk crate that has a lid on it.
Right.
because I
agree.
have a Milwaukee tool crate with zip tied PVC on it that has 8 rod holders, not 4, 8, and it cost me $50 and the pipe that I had in my garage.
Right. I see
And
the pipe that
I could have spent less. I just wanted the bigger crate.
right. Yeah. The crate that I have, I told you that, I did all the work for the kayak shop.
Yep.
They actually gave me a free crate because I set up a few kayaks for them, and they were like, instead of money, why don't we just pay you with, gear from the shop? And I was like, absolutely. We can run this route. That's fine with me.
That's how I am, dude. Like if somebody wants to give me accessories, dude, like I would love that because it's just as good as money. Because to be honest, I'm not saving any money. If you
Oh, no.
give me a black pack, I'm gonna then spend that $50 on baits or reel or line or it's this time of year. The only good thing about fall for me, fall is a depressing time for me because it means my hobby is coming to an end for the year. But financially, I recover from the summer because I'm not running to the tackle store because I need a buzz bait, and then I come out of there with $100 worth of tackle because I went in there for a buzz bait and came out there with line and a new reel.
Right.
Like it's just how it works. But um that's I think honestly that would be a great topic. We should do that for a podcast is like weird, especially if you did as much mods as you did. Like, dude, my last kayak had so many goddamn holes in it. I sold it, and the guy was like floored with all the stuff I done to it. And he's like, dude, I can't believe he's like, you thought this out so well. And I'm like, yeah, you just don't see the other 17 holes that are siliconed over.
Trust me, I have the one kayak. A guy at work, I think it was probably similar to a Sun Dolphin as far as like a sit-in kayak, but it was like Cabela's base model. I can't even think of the name of it. It was like olive green or whatever. And the mods that I did I literally sat in my garage because this is where I hang out in every house I've ever lived in, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Alabama.
The garage is the place
Yeah,
to be.
the garage is my space. But I've sat in my kayaks and like taped and like set PVC and like I could put this over here so I could troll and make it like a downrigger. You know what I mean? Because I've been out on my buddy's 46-foot Carolina skiff, and it's like, man, he has rod holders going this way, and I'm like, well, I could do this and make it. I could put weights on that, and I can make it a downrigger on my kayak, and I've done
dude,
crazy things.
Before, when I had my Sun Dolphin, I dragged it into my kitchen one day because it was cold out and I don't have a garage. And I was sitting in my kayak in my kitchen. And my wife came home and she goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "I want to see if I could reach the rod holder before I attach it." But the only way to really tell is to sit in this kayak because I made that mistake. And anybody who's customizing a kayak, do not make a modification until you put that thing on the water first, because it is different when you're standing there looking at the kayak from the ground. Even when you're sitting in it on the ground, you feel comfortable contorting your body to get to something. You get out on the water, you're never going to get to that rod holder because you can't twist your body all the way around. You can't turn. That's actually one of the reasons why I want the new Native, because it has that 360 seat. Because if I could turn myself around, I'd actually have a lot more storage.
Right.
Because I could actually just put rod holders all the way along the back of my kayak on the sides and just spin around and grab it. Right now, I have to turn left or right, and I can only turn so far because I'm 325 pounds, and I enjoy cheeseburgers too much to get rid of that problem. So I have to like think about where I put everything, because if you don't, you're going to end up putting a hole in your kayak, and then you're like, I can't use that. That's not going to work for what I actually wanted it to do. And it's a, there's only so many holes you can put in a plastic boat before you're starting to worry about sinking the damn thing.
Now I will say this: we got the tandem, the new canoe with the
Yep.
360 seats, and dude, I just gotta. I hate to say this, but they're pretty awesome. It's pretty sweet.
It's dude, I'm not gonna lie. The problem is I want to put spot lock in my bass boat. That's the problem. And goes with the money portion of it. I want to put spot lock in my bass boat because I don't have it right now and the trolling motor app sucks. But the amount of money that it costs for that spot lock would make a really nice down payment on a native Titan X.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like I fish out of my kayak way more than I do my bass boat because in my mind it's like bass boats for big water or certain weather conditions. But I'm also like, because I have, matter of fact, let's put this out on the internet. Bass boat manufacturers, explain to me why the fuck do you put carpet in your boats? I want someone to tell me the real reason, because it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life, because you're putting carpet in a situation that's going to be exposed to blood, guts, slime, grass, dirt, and water. So I don't fish heavy rain or even like mild rain in my boat because I don't want to have to deal with the stupid. Hold on, my TV turned on for some reason. I don't want to deal with the mildew smell.
Mm-hmm.
And I have I have a tracker. So my deck, which is a good thing, is all aluminum. Even the framing and the floor is all aluminum. The problem is when that gets hot and the carpet gets wet, it mildews fast.
Yeah.
And I can't cover it if it's raining. So then when I go home and I don't have a garage, so I'm covering it with a tarp, and it just creates this incubator of mold. So I don't fish out of my bass boat a lot when it's going to pour, unless I know it's going to be hot for the next 3-4 days and I can leave it uncovered and let it air out.
Now, see, here's something you might find weird, because we had a 17-foot bass boat when we lived in Ohio. And I felt that I had more room in my 12-foot kayak than I did on a 17-foot bass boat with me and my wife, or me and my son, or all three of us. Because when I fished, whenever you get out there and you fish, she had the front deck.
Yep.
Or my son would have the front deck and run the trolling motor, or she ran the trolling motor, and I had the back deck. So basically, all I had was 4 foot, 3 foot, you know what I mean? Where I had my 12-foot kayak, I could spread out. I have my rods right there. I know exactly where they're at. I have my gear right. I know, even though I could stand up and move on that boat, and I could walk around and I could pee off of this corner and that corner and not have to worry about anything, I just felt like I didn't have as much room because you're on that back corner. Or when I was up front, the front, is tapered like this here. The gunnel goes in. So if you're sitting on that little seat, you only have a foot or two on each side, or you spin around, and now you're limited because you're going to step down into the middle of the boat. I really didn't. I mean, we used it not a lot, or not like we should have. Right. But I just felt like I had more room in a 12-foot kayak than I did on a 17-foot bass boat. And people look at me like, you are so weird. And I'm like, you don't understand.
I could see it to an extent if you're fishing out of the back, for sure. See, I have an 18.5, and what you got to realize with boats, that 1.5 feet is a lot of real estate.
Oh,
because when you're talking with a bass boat, the way they V those up towards the nose. So when you fish a bass boat, there's really only about 2 configurations of bass boat. They're either front loaded or rear loaded. So most bass boats that are truly designed for fishing and not like a hybrid, the back deck is only like 3 feet wide.
Exactly.
Or deep, because they put the driver's seat as far back as they can to give you the maximum platform in the front of the boat to fish from. The problem is the way they V them towards the front beam is way shorter than the back beam. So when you get to the front, the last 2 or 3 feet of a boat is a metal plate where you're mounting your trolling motor to, where the bow of your boat is. You're not standing up there. So you lose that 2 feet right there out of the gate. And then, like you were saying, from there back, then it's narrower because they V in. So you actually lose a little bit. So that 1.5 feet, they also make, the longer the boat, they make it wider to make it dimensional. So you get an extra foot with a 1.5 foot boat too. So you get that extra square footage. So with my bass boat, I don't feel like that. But the one thing I will say, and a lot of it will have to do with this trolling motor issue, because I hate the trolling motor I have. Because I can't just like point my trolling motor in a direction and put it on low and just go that direction, because mine's a cable system. So it just rotates. It just free spins. If I'm not driving that thing, that motor will just turn to the left and my boat will start doing donuts. So I have to be on the motor all the time, and the motor I have is underpowered. So I'm basically slaved to that seat and that drive if I want to do anything. I can't hit spot lock and then walk to the back of the boat and cast to that lily pad field and then walk back and go. I'm stuck there. Whereas, to be honest, I can position myself better in a kayak than I can in my boat right now because of that drive. I can point myself into the wind. I can fish a 20-mile-an-hour wind. I've been in 20-mile-an-hour winds and had guys in boats with spot lock pull up next to me and go, "I can't believe you're out here. It's crazy." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Are you anchored?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just pedaling." Right. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "I'm just on the treadmill. I just pedal, stop, pedal, stop." And you can anchor yourself, basically spot lock yourself with a troll motor. You're constantly back and forth on your rudder. You're constantly pedaling forward or backwards to adjust your angle. But you could basically spot lock yourself with a pedal drive kayak. And I feel more comfortable, to be honest, in certain situations in a kayak than I do a bass boat, because again, I fish bigger water with the bass boat. So a storm kicks up with a kayak, I'm probably 50 yards from shore most of the time. In a bass boat, I could be a mile from shore.
Now, see, I've gone out on Lake Erie, which is big water, big water. And I've gone out in summer conditions. I've been offshore about a mile and a half. And, guys are, they're trolling past me and they're looking at me and I'm just fishing away, catching fish, and they're like, "What are you doing out here?" And I'm like, "Got to get where the fish are at, bud," know? But, constantly looking over your shoulder whenever you're on a big body of water like that, they're looking for, because the storm will roll up. I've been on Lake Erie, I know, plenty of times. And you see the storm cloud out there, and the next thing you know, you're drenched, and there's no getting
20
off.
minutes. 20 minutes. That's about all you get, and that's if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's always weird because it's always like when it gets calm is when a lake like that, Erie, Ontario, Superior, Michigan, it's not when it's wavy that you're concerned. All day, every day, those lakes have a 2-foot roller.
Yeah.
All day. There's not a day. If that lake is glass smooth, you pretty much plan on not fishing the next day. There's something about those lakes.
If you're on Erie and it is flat glass or glass flat, you might as well go home because you ain't catching nothing.
The fish ain't moving. Terrible. Yep. And then the thing is those lakes, there's something about it. When they get glass calm like that, there's a storm coming.
There's something
down. Something laid down, and then all of a sudden you're gonna get smoked tomorrow. It's crazy. Like I fish Champlain for my kayak. I've done it a bunch of times. The problem with kayak fishing on big lakes like that is it's the amount of effort exerted to locate fish for me. It's a lot of pedaling to get spot to spot. And it's like with a small lake or whatever, you can pedal around do a lap around. Because I like to start fishing by doing a lap around the exterior. I just fish the shoreline. I stay about 20, 30 yards offshore, cast both ways, deep, shallow, and I just follow the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I have to go out deep, I will. With a big lake like Champlain, I'm not following that shoreline. It would take me a week and a half.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd be in Canada if I follow the shoreline. It doesn't work like that for Champlain.
Right.
And there's some places in Champlain where it's really narrow across. You can cross the New York side pretty quickly. But the problem is that the way the wind, like you said, with like Erie, if you get a north wind to start kicking up a north wind, you're screwed because Champlain's actually a river and it flows north. So the current is going towards the north. If the wind's coming out of the north, they collide and it creates this washing machine effect. And I would rather I've fished 10-foot rolling waves in a boat. I've fished 2-foot rolling waves in a kayak. It's those 17 direction choppy waves that are the problem.
Yeah.
The rolling waves don't bother me. If I knew Champlain was going to have Lake Ontario style rollers, I would fish it more. It's because Champlain turns into that washing machine effect where you got 15 different direction waves, and no matter what you do, you're getting spun around and you're just aggravated because you can never stay in one spot, and you can't even go anchor down to ride out the storm because you're going to get your kayak rolled because you're going to get a wave breaking over your right and then left and then front and then left and then front, and you're just going to get pounded.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually,
yep.
It sucks. And that's actually one of the things that, like, that's why I have a fleet now. I have a rowboat, 14-foot rowboat with electric trolling motor, and then like a 9.9 Tatsu. Ooh. And then I have, dude, that thing's bumpy. That thing's OP, man. It's not even safe. But and then I've got the 10.5-foot kayak that I want to upgrade, and then I got the 18-foot bass boat. So then I look at the weather. Like right now, I'm retired. Like I said, I'm retiring the kayak for the year because I'm fat. And I never not have water in my kayak. My kayak has 3 inches of water in it all day long because I'm so heavy and all the gear I have, I don't sit high enough in the water where even the scupper holes will scupper. I basically pulled my scuppers out because the scuppers never drained. So what I did is I pulled the scuppers out and I have just the holes so that it at least recircs the water. So I just don't get this like dirty slime in the bottom of my kayak the whole time. It just keeps like filling and unfilling as I pedal. But it never, that's one of the reasons why I like that Feel Free design. They have the same thing in the natives. They have that lip that the drive sits in. See, the Old Town's just a hole in the floor. And it just snaps in. So when you pull that drive out, the water just goes because I'm too heavy. So that water is being displaced underneath that kayak, and the first place it goes is up out of that hole into my kayak. So this time of year with 50-degree water, I'm freezing my ass off because I'm standing in 2 inches of frozen water. And every time you pedal with pants, your pants actually scoop the water on the down pedal and then dump it down the back of your leg on the up pedal. So you're just basically soaking yourself all day long, and it's not worth it. I bought NRS boots and I have all the gear and stuff.
I was going to say dude, I love my NRS boots. Oh my God.
I call them my sexy
wear them
boots.
at the beach.
They're the ugliest goddamn boots on the face of the planet, but they're so comfortable and they keep your feet warm.
The NRS boots, we took them down. We went to Gulf Shores last year, I think, for over Christmas vacation there. Yep. And me and my son, we surf fished, and I just took the NRS boots just to take them, and I wore them down there surf fishing that first night. It didn't wade out very far because they only come up mid calf.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I ended up catching a stingray that night. And I didn't want to take the stingray out of the water. So I was able to stay in the water with the stingray till I got the hook out of its mouth and then released it. And my goodness, I mean, it was, even in Gulf Shores, in December, it was probably 40s at night. Yeah. My feet were dry. They were warm. The NRS boots, I don't know. I love those things.
See, what's funny is I actually have the wet boots.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I bought the wet wading ones because I just wanted to see what they were like.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say they work as long as the water temp stays above 50.
Mm.
Because what it is, they're made out of the same material that they make a wetsuit out of.
Mm-hmm.
So they make them out of that neoprene stuff. So you actually are supposed to get them wet so that your body heat traps the water in them, and then your body heat heats that water. The neoprene keeps your legs warm, and it has the same effect as like a wetsuit. So they're actually, your feet are actually wet. Now I don't obviously try not to get them wet if I can, because they're
Right.
warm as hell if they're not wet. When they get wet, they definitely don't get the insulating value of just having straight neoprene on your feet. But the thing I do like about them is that they're light and they're flexible, because that neoprene, I can bend my ankles. So pedaling a kayak
Mm-hmm.
is nice in those because there's no resistance in your ankles, because
Right.
it's just neoprene on a rubber sole.
I see. The only thing I dislike about them, um, like if I wear them out and I know it's going to be raining, and I take them kayak fishing through the summer, and I have shorts on, and I put those boots on to go out. I know it's going to be raining or something like that there, and I have um, wet pants that I wear. They get wet and they dry immediately.
Yeah.
If I don't have anything like around the top when I'm pedaling, the
Ah.
neoprene, it rubs my hair off.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, I hate
Mhm.
that. And
Yep.
I try to tuck my pants in a little wee bit there, and I
Yep.
kind of look stupid. But I mean, it just hurts too bad. That's the only knock that I have on those boots. I mean,
Yep.
but other than
That's
that, they
that's
are
why I like the ones I
awesome.
have, because they literally are like form fitting, so they don't rub, because they're just, you actually zip them up and they like tighten right on you. So they stay on you, but like you said, the problem is that with those ones you get wet. Your feet are soaked. I lose you there for a second.
For a second.
Yeah, let's say it
You're
started
back.
glitching up, but those the wet boots I like. I actually want to get some of the ones that aren't the wet boots, that are actual rubber boots, because
Mm-hmm.
the thing that sucks is being a content creator though. Wet pedals with boots make that when you're pedaling, they make that like basketball sneaker on the court sound.
Right.
And it, like, I'll be sitting there talking to the camera. I'm like, okay, guys, what we're doing today is squeak, squeak. The whole video is just me like squeaking the camera out, and the camera's right next to where my feet are, because I have my camera in front of me. So all
Right.
you hear is like the freaking squeak of my freaking boots dragging against those pads on those pedals. And
Okay.
it sounds awful. So I actually will literally stop and like not pedal and drift while I'm talking, so I don't make that noise. Because I pretty much kayak barefoot all summer.
Mm-hmm.
I take my shoes off and stuff them under my seat as soon as I hit the water. And the only
Right.
reason why I even have them under my seat is if I run into a rock and I need to get out of my kayak, I need to have something to get out so I don't cut my feet up, because we have zebra muscles. So if you get out in some places here, you're going to shred your feet if you get out of your
Oh yeah.
kayak. So I have to have something that's going to protect my feet a little bit from, rocks and stuff like that. But dude, I can't. You've been like so long without fishing. I just keep thinking about that. I want to start like a GoFundMe or something, because I feel bad for you.
I, well, trust me though. I mean, I was doing some research last night, um, because me, I'm this close to Lake Michigan,
Dude,
close to Lake Erie. I have to
right?
be steelhead fishing. I mean, that's my
Yeah.
boy contacted me today. He was supposed to work, and he showed up for work, and only like 2 or 3 guys showed up, so they just went home. And he was like, "I should have just left for Erie." And I mean, like, dude, I mean, like this weather with the temperature dropping,
Yeah.
I know the steelhead run is on. I've been doing my research. That's what I'm saying. You may not see me out in the kayak, but I'm definitely going to be bank fishing, be shore fishing. Um, Definitely going to be checking out the
I,
steelhead
I
around
had a
here.
buddy message me today. So one of the guys I used to fish with a lot, he started his own contracting business this year, so he hasn't fished much at all. I fished with him quite a few times last year, and he used to be a fly fishing instructor for, I
Hmm.
think, Orvis, like,
Okay.
so like big boy fly fishing, like all he did. He stopped doing the instructing because he hated the fact that like his hobby was a job now.
Yeah.
so it kind of ruined it for him. But like he says he's been catching browns, and like he says he's been fly fishing like almost every day.
That would be.
And dude, see, here's the thing. I can't fly fish, and it's not because I don't want to. It's not because I don't have the ability to. It is because financially, I don't think I could ever recover if I got into fly fishing. Because if you think bass fishing is an expensive sport, go price a fly rod.
Trust me, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 laying right there.
Yeah. They're not cheap, and they're a lot like bass fishing, where you need different ones for different circumstances.
Thank you. You do. I mean, right there, I got one for bass fishing, which is I got a Walton rod right there, which I absolutely love. I use it for bass fishing. Then I got that one, the next one down. I have it just in case I want to go out and chase after, like some muskie or pike, because it's a 10 weight. So I got that one there. Then I got just a trout rod that I use right there. I got another trout rod, which is a steelhead rod. And then I bought a Euro nymphing rod off of a buddy of mine, because 90% of the time when I am fly fishing, I'm nymph fishing. And Euro nymphing is just like one of the greatest feelings on earth whenever you're Euro nymphing. So I had to buy the Euro nymphing rod.
So the nymphing is kind of similar to like BFS, like ultralight fishing, right? Basically, it's like a sensitive deal. Is that what it is?
The Euro nymphing is because you're using your nymph, and I'll go like as small as like a 20. I can't see.
Right.
To tie a 20 or 24, my son will tie those for me, or I'll just buy them. But you're using a small,
Yeah, you're talking. Yeah.
And it's actually like ticking off the bottom. It's bouncing, and you with the Euro nymphing line, it's multicolored line. So you're watching that go down through there, and you're kind of tight lining, so to speak, with the Euro nymphing. So it's going down through there, and you're following with that, and you're in a trout is so sensitive when they hit. If you don't set the hook immediately, they bite down, and they know that it's not. Because none of my hooks that I use for fly fishing they're all barbless. None of them have barbs on them, so I can once I land the trout, then I can pop it out and release them as soon as possible. So little to no damage to the trout whatsoever. So whenever they bite down on it, they can tell instantly whether or not it's a bug, because they feel the crushing of the bug, or they can tell that this isn't a bug. So if you don't see that, the slightest movement, and like I say, you're bouncing off the bottom, so you got to know the difference between bottom bouncing and a fish hitting it. You know what I mean? So it takes a little bit of time to get to know, and trust me, I am no expert whatsoever. I am still in the learning process myself. But it's extremely fun. And I've landed quite a few fish on the Euro rod now. So I'm kind of getting to know what I'm doing. But at the same time, I've seen them hit. And by the time I see them hit, and by the time I react, they've already left go of it. And there is no barb there to kind of self-hook them. So they hit it, and they know they release it. If you don't set the hook, it's already spit out, and they're moved on to the next bait. And that fish is probably not going to hit again that day.
No, you really want to jack up a rainbow? Catch him on a jerk bait. I broke his jaw bringing it back to the boat. Felt like a straight asshole.
Oh my goodness!
Like you see TikToks where it's like, "Hey guys, you want to go fishing?" Yeah, I did that to one of those rainbow trout. Like, dude, just straight. Their mouth is made out of tissue paper. They have the softest skin, and like their whole body is just so delicate. And you're not really shouldn't handle them anymore, and you have to, because if you rip the slime coat off of them, they're gonna get sick and die. Like,
they
you
are
have
very
to be
delicate fish.
so very specially handle them things.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I caught one on a fucking Berkeley, one of those stunners,
Mm-hmm.
trolling it in my kayak, just for the hell of it, just to see what would happen. And ended up catching it and reeling it in. And of course, it can't fight at that point because it's got a treble hook in its mouth and a treble hook in its chin because it bit the middle, because that's how they hit it in the middle. It's just how trout attack. I don't know why, but that's what they do. And I'm trying to unhook a treble hook from a fucking trout. And dude, it was I've that's the thing is, it's funny. It's like, I'm a hunter. I know I've killed animals, I've squirrel hunted, but like, there's just something about bass and fish in general where like I caught a pickerel yesterday, dude, and I hooked it in the gill plate,
Mm.
like up under, and caught him with a lipless, and he got the lipless up under the gill plate, and he's thrashing, dude. And I'm desperately trying to pin this thing down so he doesn't rip his gill plate out and kill himself. Like, I'm not harvesting these fish. I'm catch and release, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
because I don't believe in harvesting. Honestly, I probably should harvest fish in some of the places that I fish because they're so loaded that I could help
Right.
thin the herd a little bit and maybe make some bigger quality fish in there. But the water quality in Vermont, there's some places that the water's really good, and there's a lot of places where they say do not eat fish out of this lake.
Oh yeah.
Champlain's one of them. Champlain is notorious for high levels of mercury, high levels of PCBs, and all that crap that you're not supposed to drink and eat. And now we have a big blue-green algae bloom that happens all year long at random times on Champlain. There's thousands of farms where the manure is just running into the lake. Like, I don't like glowing in the dark when I sleep, so I would rather
Yeah.
just not eat the bass. And the thing is, to be honest, a salmon be one thing, shallow water fish that's not eating a lot of crap. A bass, dude, bass eat fucking everything. Who knows what the hell that bass is consumed?
Mm-hmm.
Because they will eat. It's like a catfish, dude. They'll eat anything that looks like it could be alive. They
Right.
don't discriminate.
See, I only limit my fish to walleye, perch, and crappie. I like I say, I fish for trout
Yep.
all over. I've been, from New York all the way down in Alabama. You know,
Yep.
and I can count on one hand, and I don't even need that many fingers. How many trout I've eaten, and that was whenever I was younger.
Brook
Um,
trout. It's the only trout I've ever eaten.
I don't like. This sounds stupid when I tell people this, but trout to me are too fishy tasting. They're too oily. They're too,
See
what
that?
I mean? And I don't like it. I like the walleye, the white, flaky, fish, and how you prepare it. Um,
Yep.
and maybe it's just the way that, I've had trout in the past and it was just cooked over an open fire with some butter, salt, and pepper. And, you flayed it open and they put the butter and salt and pepper on the meat, flipped it back together. And
Well,
that's how we ate it. I
yeah.
did not particularly care for it.
See, a lot of people don't know, and for those of you guys that are watching or listening, you can eat the skin of a trout. Other species of fish, they have scales. Trout do not have scales like a bass or salmon. So you can actually literally eat the skin. It won't have any effect on you at all. And some people actually prefer to eat the skin. It's kind of like a baked potato. Some people eat it, some people don't. But the problem with trout is that, in my opinion, is again, trout are eating weird shit. They're eating bugs. They're eating like they're an aggressive species. Like, you don't realize how aggressive trout are until you try to target trout and you're catching them on 6-inch jerk baits designed for bass, trolling them at 2.5 miles an hour in a kayak, just pedaling to go home. Because that's what I do when I go home. It's
Mm-hmm.
just an instinctual thing that I've always done. I'm tired. I don't want to fish anymore, but I got to fish this last 40 yards. So wing out 2 jerk baits or a lipless and a jerk bait or a crankbait or something, throw it off the side of the kayak and just pedal my way home. And every once in a while, it pays off and you'll luck into either a big bass that's just happy for the meal, or you'll luck into a big pike or whatever.
Mhm.
And dude, like those lake trout that I caught in March, dude, like we were trolling
That
jerk
was
baits in
awesome.
80 feet of water catching fucking 30-inch lake trout
When you
for
told me
no
you were
reason.
going out and then you sent me pictures, I'm like, there's no way. And then
Dude,
when I
my
seen him and I was like, dude, he's catching lake trout?
dude, my
Man,
dad,
this is awesome.
every time I see my dad, he goes, "We gotta do that again this year."
Oh, yes, you do.
And I'm like, dude, I don't even know if we have to wait because we're getting to that water temp now.
Man, that's so awesome. That is
Dude,
so
so this
awesome.
place, you gotta understand this place, the way it makes up too, though, is like it's all ledge.
Hmm.
So it's literally a vertical ledge, 100 feet of water in the middle, 80 feet of water on the edge, and then a 12-foot water bay. So when that water temp gets to that point where the trout can come up, because trout don't like warm water. They
Hmm.
won't survive in warm water. So in the summertime, they are laying as deep in the mud as they can get their body. Lake trout specifically. I mean, brook trout and all of them do it, but they don't like hot water. They actually will die in hot water. But the wintertime, they come up. They can hang out in that 10, 12, 14-foot stuff because the water temp is there. So it's crazy like how that particular place, my dad is like very, very adamant that we need to go back there. But I think what we're gonna do this year is we're gonna take the bass boat.
I was going to say, I would, yeah, I'd take the boat, do some trolling. Who knows how many you pick up then? I
Gonna be a
mean,
great video. Stay tuned for it because I'm gonna throw my dad in the back of the boat on that back seat, and I'm gonna use the troll motor on the front. And I'm gonna have him have one rod in each hand. We're just gonna go.
no, that's going to make great
And
content.
then just when you get a fish on, hand the rod up or catch it and put the other one down. Because I don't have rod holders, and there's not a good way to put trolling rod holders on a bass boat. It's
No,
just
not at
not a
all.
good way to do it, especially with mine because mine has the aluminum deck, so I can't even like tack screw shit down to it because I'd have to have like self tappers and I'd have to back it on the other side because it would just pull back out.
Hmm.
So it's just not worth putting. Like I'm not going to modify my boat for trolling. It's not what it's designed for. But I actually did think about, speaking of redneck engineering, though, I am thinking about putting a board across the back of the seat, though.
Okay. All
So you
right.
take like a 2x4 across the back of the seat, and then I could put a couple Scotty deck plates on it,
Hmm.
and then I could put two rod holders off the back seat.
Yeah. Or, you ever see, yeah, I mean, the, for like in a pickup truck, whenever they put that bar across there that like tightens
Yeah,
out, you could
yeah,
put that across there, tighten it out,
true.
put, some kind of, Scotty rod holders on that. And
Yep.
you can put it up, take it on and off.
If I was by my
That's what I love. You can get creative.
So if I was fishing with my dad, I would have him just do it in the seat. But if I was fishing by myself, I thought about rigging something up that goes in the pedestal where the
Hmm.
seat goes. Get somebody to weld me something that would sit on top in that pedestal hole.
Hmm.
Because if you just did a tube weld, you just do a tube into a T. You could then throw whatever you want as a rod holder on that pedestal. That's all you need. Because then the problem is my bass boat's a 60 horsepower 4-stroke.
Hmm.
It doesn't go slow enough to troll. It trolls at 3 miles an hour in idle. So I'd have to either drift socket, and it doesn't like to go slow. Like it's not I'm not saying it's like, oh, it should be going 90. I think the fastest I've ever gone in that boat is 33. But like it doesn't like to go under 10 miles an hour, and the motor starts to get like
I'm
get
trying to
glitchy.
gum up.
It starts to gum up, and then I gotta like clean it out. So
Yeah.
I need to use the trolling motor, which is another reason why I want that spot lock with the remote.
Hmm.
Because if I could put rod holders in the back, I could just sit in the back seat with the rod holders mounted off of it, or I could just put it on the thing and sit in the driver's seat, like just sit sideways and just chill with the remote and drive the boat from the front of the boat with the trolling motor until one of those rods go off, pop that spot lock, reel that trout in, and then just reset and start fishing again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly one of the main reasons why I want that spot lock, because then I can just go do stuff like that. Because I'm a bass fisherman. I'm addicted to bass fishing, but I like fishing. Like, I'll go catch
Yeah.
a bucket full of bluegill just as much as I'll go catch a 5-pound largemouth. Like,
I'm the same way. That's what I mean.
I'm
I
just
fish
as
for
excited
everything.
to see a 10-inch bluegill as I am a 7-pound smallmouth. Like, it's just as cool for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy either way.
Me too. I get as excited or more catching a 3-inch native brookie on a 3-weight fly rod as I do catching a 10-pound bass on a 7-7 rod from my kayak. You know what I mean? I can do it both. It doesn't bother me.
My mom just texted me. Apparently, the Jets are beating the Eagles.
Uh-oh.
No way, dude.
I don't watch pro ball.
Minute 34 left, and the Jets just took the lead against the Eagles. You know why? You know why?
Because you're not watching.
Because
You're
I'm
not
not
watching.
exact game's on pause right there. But yeah, dude, I'm trying to think, like, fly fishing, I can't do it. I don't want to spend the money because I will end up with high-end Sims waders and 5 different weight rods, and yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
I got the Sims waiters over there. I got the Sims booze.
that's what I'm saying, dude. It's like the brand, man. Like, it's not like I'm not even brand loyal, but like, if I was gonna go buy rain gear, even for bass fishing, it'd be Sims, dude, because it's like it's just stuff that you've seen. It's been around too long, and I grew up in Vermont, and Vermont's a fly fishing state, like mecca for fly fishing. Like I feel like Vermont helped invent it or something. Like, there's some lore that goes with that. You know what I mean? Like, this state is heavy trout and heavy fly fishing, and and it's just I would end up broker than I already am, because I would end up being like, because then what would happen is I would go down that rabbit hole. I would buy all the rods, I would buy all the gear, and then I would buy all the fly tying stuff. Because if you're fly fishing, you tie flies. It's just like hand in hand.
I got the vice
Like,
sitting right there.
dude, it's a thing. Like, I mean, yeah, you could buy them, you can, but no one I know that fly fishes doesn't tie their own stuff. Like,
That's what I said. The only time I do is, like I say, when you get into that 20, 22, 24, my eyes, I can't see. And I think my boy told me that I can probably hook my camera up.
Yep.
And then hook it to my TV so I can watch my TV and watch myself tie up there through my camera. I haven't done that yet.
GoPros will do it.
I'm probably going to this season because I take my shop light and I mount my shop light over top of my head, so it's shooting direct light down onto my vise. And then I got my cheaters on, my glasses. I got those on, and I'm sitting way up tight like this.
Yeah.
And I'm going around, and so and that's to do like a 12 or a 14. I'm sitting back close, even a 16. So I get into the 18, 20, 22, 24. I can't see what the heck I'm doing.
Those of you who don't know what that is, look them up. Like,
yeah.
I don't know fly fishing. I don't know a lot about it, but I know fish hook sizes, and I know how stuff works. And the way it works is, if you don't hear the word "ought" after it, the higher the number, the smaller that shit's getting.
Well, I can tell you this: if we have anybody watching, and anybody looks up a 24 midge, red, black, and they tie that green, if they tie that up, any of our watcher viewers, and they tie a 24, I'll buy it off them, because I can't tie that shit. It's just too small.
I don't think I could. You're talking like a pinhead.
And I'm saying, with my Euro nymph, when we lived in Ohio, that's when I started Euro nymphing. So probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, I was using a 20 and 22 and catching trout religiously on a 20 or 22
Yep.
midge and losing twice as many as I was catching. And I was catching, a ton of them when I first
That's,
started it. I call it beginner's luck, or I don't know, and I know I lost twice as many.
oh, at least, dude. The thing is it's just like Ned rig fishing. If you want to equate it to bass fishing, it's like using a small Ned
Mm-hmm.
because it's an exposed hook. They don't have weed guards on them. They're open hook, and they don't have a barb in them, so they're like basically a flat shank hook that finds every goddamn rock that there ever was. And not to mention, usually when you're fly fishing current.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you urine him, because it has to drift. It has to come down through, and it has to bounce down through there.
So that thing's
And,
getting lodged under rocks and everything
oh,
else. And
it's
dude, I
a it's
love
a
it.
it's a game. I will I will say that it's a game.
That's why I haven't gotten it, dude. That's why I don't do it, because it's like I know. I mean, dude, I'm right now. I'm sitting here thinking I'm cutting back on my fishing because like I literally have a video every week from now until May 2024.
Good Lord.
Like I
Good
fish a
Lord.
lot. Like I
Right?
fish every weekend. I made 3 videos Saturday.
My goodness.
I caught 3 fish. None of those videos have fish in them because I've started doing bass class educational stuff. So if I don't catch fish, I'll stop and be like, what am I doing? Okay, I'm fishing a lipless. Let's do something about a lipless. Like I'll make a video about a lipless. Like, so I've learned how to do that so I can make constant content so I can grow my channel and educate people and make something entertaining. So
Right.
I don't need the videos. I'm at a point now where I don't need videos until the spawn. I just don't. I could literally run out the clock, not make another video this year, and get to spawn next year and be fine. Not to mention I'm gonna be doing lives every Thursday, once a week. It's been Sundays and random days lately, but
Mm-hmm.
every other Thursday I'm on May Contain, and then every other week I'm here with you. So I have a weekly video just in this all fall long.
Right.
So fishing is more about I get more picky this time of year and I'm trying to target specific stuff, or I'll play around and go try to catch a lake trout with my kayak. Like it's when I start doing the dumb stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I want to retire my kayak, because I know it's just a matter of time before I'm like, I'm going to go to Champlain and see if I can find those lake trout. And I'm like, I need to not do that. I need to take my boat out there where it's safe, at least safer
Safer. Yeah.
than being 6 inches off of 40-degree water. And dude, I was not like anybody who watches that video, please look at that video as a what not to do.
Do as I say, not as I do.
I was wearing fucking hunting fleece like bibs. I was wearing a hoodie. I was wearing like muck boots. Like I was an anchor if I hit that water. I was dead if I ended up in the water. Like I didn't have a warm suit on. I didn't have a dry suit on. I didn't have nothing. I was literally fishing for the fun of fishing. It was fucking snowing, dude. Like I was literally in a kayak and it was snowing.
Oh, I
My
remember. I remember the
reels
picture
kept
well.
my reels kept freezing. Like it was not safe. And if I do it this year, it's going to be from the boat, at the very least, the 14-foot rowboat,
Right.
because I can get that out there, use that rowboat, big motor to get me out, and then use the electric trolling motor to pump me around and get me up to speed, throw some rod holders and that. No, that I have rod holder mounts in. So
Mm-hmm.
that's probably going to be one of my very soon adventures now that the water temp's down, is to see if I can go find some big boy lake trout. But the problem is the weather's been so jacked here. Like you haven't really honestly missed much this year. It's been a weird year for fishing. Like
It has been here too.
I've caught some of the biggest bass I've ever caught. But a lot of that has to do with my knowledge base and my willingness. Like that's, I think, the takeaway from my channel. Anybody who watches my actual YouTube channel, think about this. That 6-minute video that I put out today took me 16 hours of fishing to produce.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to show you guys the 15 hours of me not catching fish. I'm going to show you the 7 fish catches in a row that took me 12 and a half hours to accomplish. And some of those aren't even that big. Like, that's the thing about the whole content world is you got the movie magic of I just cut all of the footage until I show you, oh, look, I caught a fish. Cool. Oh, look, I caught another fish. Sometimes that fish is the next day.
Right.
So like this time of year, unfortunately, dude, I think I missed the feed bag stage. I don't know how I did it, but the weather just dropped so quickly that we went from 65 to 54 in like a week and a half.
Good gracious.
So I think I missed that feedback stage. I'm still getting into them, but mostly what I'm catching now is pike and pickerel.
Right.
Which is telling me, anybody see that? You hear that? Yeah, what that was for people who are listening, you can't see his face, but those species are cold water eaters. Those species are the ones that they're pulling through the ice in Michigan and pulling through the ice in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Those are the fish that turn on when the water temps get low. And the bass go the opposite way, and they start to go into hibernation mode where they eat once every 2 days instead of 4 times a day. And that's what I think I hit. I think I hit that, like, I missed the feed bag. I am getting some of the bigger bass to eat, but even, dude, the ones I've been catching, dude, I caught a probably 3.5, 4 pounder yesterday on a Ned rig, on a Helgramite.
So he being selective fish, eating too.
In the fall.
Yeah.
In the fall, you usually throw a 2.5 KVD square bill. You usually throw a spinner bait. You usually throw a buzz bait. They wouldn't eat any of it. Jerk bait, wouldn't touch it. Had to dead stick a Helgramite in a tree to get a fish to eat. So unfortunately, I think my fishing days are coming to an end very soon because it's 40 degrees outside and I'm freezing my ass off to catch one fish in 8 hours, which I like doing, but it's not worth getting sick over. So
right, exactly.
And I don't steelhead fish and I don't fly fish. And that's why I don't fly fish, because I do need somewhat of an off season, I've decided, because I would never financially recover if I suddenly could fish all year long, because I would be that asshole out there in the middle of XYZ River in my Sims waders, like with an ice scraper and a push pole to break the ice chunks out of the way so I could open up a little bit of water to see if the trout are biting.
Now, I can honestly say on Elk Creek in Pennsylvania, probably a good 10, 12 years ago now, we broke ice that was probably 2-3 inches thick, and it took us a good 3 hours to break open a nice little hole for us that me, my son, and a friend of mine could end up fishing. So we broke all the ice, and we went downstream and broke the ice so the ice that we were breaking had a spot to go to, could flow away. And once we broke all the ice, we kind of gave it about a half hour, 45 minutes to kind of let everything get settled back down. And wouldn't you know it, sure enough, we started catching fish.
Dude.
And then probably 10 minutes after we started catching fish, idiots were showing up behind us. Hey, do you mind if we get in here and fish? And I was like, yeah, absolutely do. I just spent 2-3 hours busting this ice up so I could fish.
Yeah, I built it. Yeah.
You can fish when I'm done. By all means, slide in here when I'm done, but you're going to wait till we're finished. You know what I'm saying? Right. I don't mean to be a dick here, but I'm going to be a dick.
Dude, I don't blame you, because so the day I got my kayak, right, was February. And I wanted to fish. Lake Champlain was still frozen. And usually the big lakes are the first to let go. Yeah, Champlain still had 2 inches of ice except for one bay that was open. And it wasn't really open. It was just people were launching out of there because trout fishermen are stupid and they'll go out there in their bass boats and break ice with their fiberglass bass boats just to go catch trout. So, like, literally, I was out there and you couldn't get to shore because there was still 4 or 5 feet of ice around the outer edge of the whole lake. And I'm in a pedal drive kayak for the first time trolling for salmon because the bass aren't going to bite at that point. So
It's February.
I'm trolling for landlocks in a pedal drive kayak in the middle of Lake Champlain. Like that's what fishing is, dude. It's just it's a passion that you get hooked on. And honestly, I'm dreading it. Like I'm looking at like, okay, I need to be able to I'm going to be making baits this fall. I'm going to be doing some videos on that and stuff like that. But like it's just a matter of I need that in my life, and if I end up getting trout like fly fishing into my system, it's not going to be good because you'll see me on the news, guarantee it. You know, man discovered after multiple days of being missing, clinging to an island, and when interviewed, how did he survive? I just ate the trout I was catching.
Exactly.
Like I would be that guy that would like get swept down river. My waders would be full of water. I would bail out and then jump up on an island and then build a fire and start fishing again. Like it's just that's just my personality. My wife, when I told my wife I was going fishing, she's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Lake Champlain." She's like, "You're going on Champlain." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, what you're taking your boat?" I'm like, "No, the kayak." You're taking your kayak on Champlain. You know, like the conversation's getting worse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "But Dad's going." She's like, "Your father, you know, the old man that smokes 2 packs a day, he's the one that's going to be your safety." I'm like, yeah, he'll be there. Like,
oh, what could go wrong? My dad's going.
Yeah. So what if the water temp's 48 degrees and I'm in a plastic boat and fleece pants? But it's what you do, man. When you love the sport, that's what you end up doing, and just do that stuff. So I know we didn't really like tell those kind of stories, I guess, but dude, there's so many things that like just fishing in general, man. It's just one of those things like you just get hooked on it and you start doing dumb shit and building dumb shit and
that's where fishing leads you, though. I mean,
yep.
What do they say? It's not about the fish you catch; it's about the stories that you have to tell.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And some of them are great stories. Some of them are great. Some of them are boring as hell. Yeah, ask my wife. She'll tell you every single one of my stories is boring as hell from fishing. But I mean, it's a story. You know what I mean? And that's part of it. You know, you got to be able to tell it.
It's funny because that's why I started live streaming, though, because I could tell my wife what happened on a day of the water, and she'll be like some days you watch my videos, and people actually have asked me about this, and they're like, "Why are you laughing when you caught that fish?" And I'm like, "You don't understand why this is funny." Because like this dumb stuff will happen. Like I hooked a fish backwards one day. So I cast it over my shoulder with the intention of spinning my kayak because the wind was blowing me the opposite direction. So with my Old Town, the one knock I will say on the Old Town kayaks is the turning radius is fucking tractor trailer truck style. You cannot turn in those things. You've got to go out and around to turn around.
Right.
They just don't turn. It's just how they are. So I wanted to fish the dock, got blown away from the dock, so I backhand cast with the intention of turning my kayak around and then working that bait. Well, lo and behold, bass hits it. So I hook set like this, like punched forward to hook that fish because I was holding my rod up, like literally hold it like this, pedaling to try to turn, and I feel it tunk, and I'm like, and I just like punch forward, hook that fish. Now, trying to describe that to someone who doesn't fish, it's not that funny. Hi, Ram. Hi, girl. But to somebody who fishes, trying to do a hook set like this and actually landing the fish is pretty impressive.
Exactly.
Because usually you've got to like jack this thing. You know, just dumb stuff like that. Or like I'll hook a fish. More often than not this year, it's been really weird. One of the best ways I've caught fish, like with a jig, for example. I haven't caught as many jig fish on the fall or dragging it. I've caught it when I've given up and I'm trying to burn it back to the boat.
Oh, no way.
Dude, a lot of the fish I've hit this year, it's been weird. cast it, pop it, drag it, do all the stuff you're going to do. Okay, I'm done. Burn it back to the boat. Boom, right next to the boat. And I start laughing because what you don't see on camera is I'm no intention of catching a fish at this point. You're just getting this thing back to the boat to get ready for the next cast.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see this missile. And it always seems like it comes from under your kayak. I don't know if that happens to you, but pike, bass, smallmouth especially, when they go into torpedo mode, I call it, they're always coming from under your kayak. So you're sitting there reeling this up, and you see your bait start to come through the water column because it's right up on the surface because you're burning it back. And then all of a sudden you just see this freaking green missile fly under your kayak and smoke that thing. And you got to set your hook like the most awkward, weird angle because at this point the fish is closer to you than the bait is. And then like I just start laughing because I'm like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Like you had to go under danger to get to this food. Like, I'm danger. Like, this kayak obviously represents a threat to you, but I've had them run into my pedal drive, feel them. Like, I feel my blades tap off of the fish, and then have them smoke my bait next to my boat. I've had them hit my baits when I was tying. Like, I've set my rod off the side of my boat and just had the bait sit there on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, like, digging through my box, figuring out what bait I'm going to go, and I look, and there's do-do-do-do-do.
Oh, yeah. I had that happen to me a couple of times.
A week ago, I had a fish. I actually was like fighting the fish away from the bait. The bait was on the surface, and he hit it, and I yanked it, and he hit it again, and I yanked it, and he came out of the water to chase this wacky rig. So he hit it 3 times across the top of the water, and then came shammooing out when I popped it out of the water because I didn't make the connection that was a fish hitting it. I thought it was just a wacky rig tumbling through the wave until I got to the edge of the boat. And then all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, that's a fish that's been hitting that. And you hear me say that like all year. If you listen to a lot of the videos that are coming up, a lot of my videos that are hitting right now this month were like during the height of fishing. You hear me go, holy shit, that's a fish. I've never said that so much in my life because I think I'm in milfoil. They're hitting it weird this year. Like they're hitting on the run or they're just mouthing it. Right. And they're not like smoking it like they always used to. So then I'm reeling and I'm like, oh, milfoil chunk. And then I'll keep reeling and I'm like, whoa, like all of a sudden it's like, oh, this milfoil chunk wants to swim north now. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? So, dude, it's the craziest year. So, we're going on like an hour and a half, so we should probably let you get back to your projects and celebrate your. So you did actually pass, so you're good.
I did pass, so I can enjoy Indiana. I can breathe easy. I can sleep at night.
Perfect. So we're gonna try our best, guys, to set some sort of regular schedule where we show up on time and some asshole doesn't forget that the schedule was 5. But the plan is I'm going to try to announce it at least 3 days ahead of time what day we're going to be on. It may not always be the same day, but we're going to do our best to announce when we're going to be on. We will be on this show every other week. I will be porting it to Spotify roughly within the same week that we record, especially this fall when I got nothing else to do. But those of you that are following on Spotify, don't hesitate to check out my channel. And you know, we're going to be trying to do as many different things as we can. So if you have ideas on topics, Instagram and YouTube, reach out to me, suggest topics. We're going to be bringing a lot of guests on. I've got a bunch of people lined up. Some big time YouTubers that I definitely can get on here. Some guys that are local fishermen, businessmen, you know, just anybody who wants to come on and talk fishing. A lot of times having a third person on here just helps break up the same stories from coming up over and over again, like old fishermen do, and constantly tell the same stories because we forget that we've told those stories. So that's what we're going to do. But we're going to get this show wrapped up right here. I want to thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate everyone who's taken time to listen to the channel, who's taken time to listen to this podcast. We are trying to grow this thing, so tell your friends if you enjoyed the show. Like I said, I know this one was completely random and off the cuff, but we will get a little bit more organized for the next go around. You got anything else to say before we bail out of
No.
here?
Just spread the word. Get the Spawn podcast out there. Tell everybody. Like you said, if there's a topic that somebody wants to hear us talk about, that we can maybe dive in, help dissect something for somebody. Drop a line and let us know.
Absolutely. And if you have a topic that you want to come on and talk about, hit me up. We'll get you on the show and bring you on to talk about it as well. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end the stream right now. Good night, and we will see you guys in a couple of weeks.